And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. Can I take these off? All right. What is this? This looks good. Wow, that's well made. Where did you get this? I'm talking to you with the hair. Yeah, where did you get this? It's good stuff. That's solid. That's not veneer, that's solid stuff.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Tonight. Alright! We're gonna have a TV party, alright! Tonight! We've got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight! Alright! We'll pass out on the couch, alright! Tonight! We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't want to know. We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
And tonight, our favorite show is Cobra Kai, brought to you by the good people at YouTube Premium. Horowitz and Schlossberg Productions, Overbrook Entertainment, Herald Productions, and Sony Pictures Television. If they can't make movies worth the shit, but at least they came up with a pretty good television show. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified Mr. Mark Radulich. And joining me tonight here in the Cobra Kai dojo is one Jesse Starcher. Are you ready to do or die, Jesse Starcher?
No mercy, sir.
No
mercy.
There is no defeat in this dojo. And, of course, bringing his own brand of delectable toxic masculinity. Ladies and gentlemen, the testosterone is flowing. It's Pat Mullen. How do you do, sir?
I do excellent, fellas. I will let you know that there is a pretty vicious thunderstorm outside of my window right now, so I may or may not lose service at some point, just to be aware.
Okay. If we lose you, well, we'll know why. Though, I have to wonder, are you standing out on your roof with a hammer calling down the lightning?
Yes, sir. There you go.
All right. So, May 2nd, 2019, YouTube renewed Cobra Kai for a third season. We're going to talk about Season 2 tonight, which actually premiered on April 24th, 2019. We loved this show. We were very big fans of it when it came out last May. It's like the only thing I've ever watched on YouTube Premium. This is now the second time I've signed up for just long enough to watch the show and immediately canceled it.
To be fair, did anyone else not do that? Because that's what I did.
Mm-hmm. Well, apparently they finally learned, and I guess the next season of Cobra Kai, Season 3, will be available without having to pay for the service.
That's amazing. That's great.
Just with commercials, which who gives a shit? So, I mean, like half the time I'm on my phone anyway, playing Angry Birds. But, all right. So, let's get into it. Now, with TV Party, for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to listen to the show before, I don't necessarily do an episode-by-episode breakdown. I kind of talk about the themes and the performances and moments in the show. I don't belabor a lot of the finer points. I will tell you that where we left off with Season 1, Miguel had won the All Valley. Him and Hawk executed the plan of no mercy. Miguel defeated Robbie, who was, of course, Johnny's son. And at the end of all things, Daniel decided to open up Mr. Miyagi's home as the Miyagi-Do Dojo. And his plan was to use this dojo as an alternative to Cobra Kai, offering the philosophy and the teachings of Mr. Miyagi as sort of an anti-bully type karate dojo. And, of course, his first students are Robbie and his daughter. And that's where things pick up. So let me start off right off the bat, Jesse. What did you think of Season 2? Did you like it as much as Season 1? Was it as strong, stronger, not as strong? What do you think?
I'm going to go ahead and say that for some reason, and it must just be because that novelty kind of wore off, I would say it's probably just not as great as Season 1. But I'm going to say that with a caveat of it's definitely not a whole lot worse than Season 1. I'm talking about it's just a smidge, not as good, okay? And so I was impressed with Season 2. I remember watching Season 1, and Caleb was, my 9-year-old son, was invested in that. And when I told him Season 2 had hit, he was very excited. He's like, we've got to watch it. My wife was watching it with us as well. So once we found out that they were available, we hopped right on that. And I think a lot of what comes out of this season, granted we got a lot of drama that we're going to be talking about tonight, but enjoying it with my son probably elevated it up there for me as well. But as far as comparing Season 1 to Season 2, I'd say Season 1 is just a little bit better. I still had a good time, though.
One of the things that happened at the end of Season 1 leading into Season 2 was the return of John Kreese.
Ooh.
So, Pat, tell me about that. You know, John Kreese shows up at the end of Season 1. You know he's going to be a big factor in Season 2. What were your expectations? Were they met after, did you like the way they used John Kreese? Talk to me about that.
I think it was the best possible cliffhanger to leave Season 1 on was introducing John the way they did. And I think Martin Cove does tremendous with, even in small bits in most of his appearances. But I think the overall arc with Season 2 is kind of 0 to 60, almost. It's little tidbit, bam, at the end, it hits you. It's not really a steady progression. It's a very rapid progression, which I get because the show has a lot going on. Like, this isn't an A-plot, B-plot show. It's an A-plot through, D-plot show.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the changes, I think, from Season 1 to Season 2 for me was the gimmick with Season 1, and we kind of all argued about this amongst ourselves, was this idea of, well, who is the bad guy? And the show is a giant, ode to shades of gray. You see things from Johnny's point of view, and that's the initial hook, right? When they pitched Cobra Kai, it was, here's the Karate Kid from Johnny's point of view going forward. And Johnny comes across as a sympathetic character. He is he's somewhat complicated. He's kind of we refer to him as the analog man. More on that later. He's a kind of a throwback to that era, in a world that's #MeToo. And this, and so the rivalry between him and Danny sometimes brings out the best and brings out the worst in both of them, and you see each other's point of view. I feel like they didn't lean on that nearly as much in Season 2. Season 2 was more about Johnny's relationship with Kreese, and you see this in the episode where Johnny reunites with his old friends right before one of them dies of cancer, where they're all recognizing that John Kreese is all bad, and Johnny essentially approaches the whole John Kreese thing is, I have to believe, and we've seen this before in other media, I have to believe that he can change and be good because if he can, so can I. People can accept me too. As having been a changed person. Daniel kind of swings back and forth with that, where he even in Season 1, he started to accept Johnny a little bit, and then something happens and he swings back the other way, back to where he's comfortable, seeing Johnny as the enemy. Whether he is or not, is a whole other story, but this is Daniel's perspective. Season 2 does the exact same thing. Johnny is the enemy. Oh my God, Kreese is back. They're both the enemy. They're the enemy. And you have the episode where they have dinner together and they break bread and They start to get along, and then everything falls apart again. And Dan, we were talking about this on the Civil War podcast. This is another situation where a lot of nonsense could have been avoided had at least one character not gone crazy.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, had one phone call been made?
Yeah. So we're talking. I'll pass it on to you guys in just a second. But we're talking about the episode of The Party where Sam gets drunk and Robbie takes her to Johnny's house. And had Daniel just said, "Could someone explain to me what's going on?" instead of kicking the door in, a lot of pain could have been avoided.
Well, and to be fair now, again, from the other perspective, had Johnny, when they got there, just called Daniel and said, "Hey, my son just brought your daughter to my place. She's drunk. I'm going to let her stay here for the night if you want to come pick her up in the morning."
Or just as simply said, "Hey, Robbie brought your daughter here. She drank too much at a party. What do you want to do?"
Yeah.
I will tell you that if my daughter is at the house of a man that, number one, I haven't trusted for most of my life, and then that man proceeds to shut the door on me, between me and my daughter, I'm fucking kicking that door in too.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind, if I can do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take my daughter home. So I really understood where Daniel was coming from there. But that's what the mark of good writing is that if you can put yourself in the shoes of that person, which I fully, wholeheartedly did. I was in Daniel's shoes, and I was like, "Yeah, you damn right. I'm taking my daughter home."
No, and I absolutely see that. I think, like I said, I think there's equal points to both points of view. If he stops for a second and lets Johnny explain the situation to him and say, "Okay, I'm going to take my daughter home. Let me in," I think Johnny does that. But here's the problem: is Daniel, and this is a common thread throughout the entire season. This is what gets him in trouble with his wife: is that he's very impulsive, and he is constantly, he is a classic guy. He is Mr. Fix-It. Like, I can fix this. I can fix everything. I've got an answer for it, and it seldom works out the way he's planned with all of his machinations, because he isn't listening. Like, he even says it towards the end. I missed all of Mr. Miyagi's lessons that I seek to teach others, and I fail to execute them. Which is another level to the show. But so going back, all right, let's talk about Johnny and Kreese and their arc in the show first. I think it's as fair a place to start as any. So what we have here is, after having seen what Hawk and Miguel did in the tournament, Johnny has a change of heart to a degree about having no mercy, and he sort of changes the motif of Cobra Kai. It's not about cheating and being brutal; it's about being badass, and however that is defined. And so, he mostly gets there by seeing what happens to his son. So he has a personal stake in it, and then you have the return of John, and they're talking. Johnny still hasn't gotten over any of the things that John has done to him, and John is trying to prove that they can work together. I'll go to you first, Jesse. What did you think of the John and Johnny arc?
Oh my goodness, you look at Kreese and you're like, if you watch the movie, this guy is a shitbag. You don't want him anywhere near, and that was, of course, the stinger they hit you with at the end of season 1. So I don't know how many times he showed up on screen and I just went, Kreese. It was like fucking Jerry Seinfeld with Newman, if anybody gets that reference. But, it's like he's the arch enemy, and here Johnny Lawrence is giving him a second chance. So throughout the whole arc, I'm trying to find out if this guy is worthy of a second chance. Can people fall far enough to where you feel that you need to pick them back up again? And even though all this dirty stuff he'd done in the past, almost beat the crap out of him after losing the tournament, the All Valley back in the 80s. Is he going to give him a second chance? And he does. And the main thing is, okay, now I get to watch it backfire. Watch it bite him in the ass. There's one point in that arc where, they make Kreese out to be a very sympathetic character. And I was like, okay, I understand.
Where is this going?
Yeah. Why? Okay. I guess I could understand that's going to give them more fuel to the fire of giving somebody a second chance. And yeah, people can maybe change, but that lasts for approximately one episode. And then the rest of it is, he's the snake in the grass. He is the guy you've got to watch out for. So yeah, him finally kicking him out of the dojo, I was like, yes, get Kreese out of there. But seeing them two side by side as senseis, oh my goodness. I was like, this is not good. This is not good. So I like the arc. Go ahead.
There were parts of it that were positive, like watching them teach together. It actually worked out very well.
When they were teaching the choke escape.
Yeah, the divergence happens when Kreese wants to return the dojo to his roots, and Johnny's like, no, wait, this isn't 1988. This isn't going to work. We need to do things a little bit differently. We have to find that line between, again, being a badass, standing up for yourself, having confidence, being tough, and
the difference between no mercy and no honor.
Yes, the difference between perfectly put, as the show says. So I'll let you keep going, Pat. What did you think of the early episodes with Kreese and Johnny?
So you're curious as to where it's going to go, because the last time you saw Kreese and Johnny together before season 1, Kreese is literally choking him out in a parking lot and calling him an embarrassment. So, the whole season 1 has been a redemption arc of sorts for Johnny, and it's like, okay, is this going to be him taking massive steps back, or is he going to help Kreese become a better man, or what are we getting here? And as you see it, you see divergent paths. You see the possibility that one person can change and can grow and can mature, because Johnny was a teenager when all this went on. When Kreese was there when this was initially going on, he's a fully formed adult who had been in the Vietnam War and had been teaching karate for, unspecified amount of years, but was an adult with a business and all this stuff. That's the key difference between where they were. As a grown man, John Kreese never changed. If you look at the Kreese character as a whole, you skip over the majority of Karate Kid 2 after the beginning, and you go to Karate Kid 3. Rather than understand he screwed up and, nope, I'm going to seek revenge on this kid and this old man. And the only way I know how, Cobra Kai style. And they tried and they failed again. So, once you hear him talking about when he's misappropriating locations in wars, when he, does that stuff and Miguel's kind of catching on to him, you're like, okay, I think I know where this is going. And then again, it becomes more of a Johnny-fueled arc where which way is Johnny going to go? And ultimately, he makes the choice that you're rooting for. He disassociates from Kreese. And I think besides that, the other big factor in that is when you have that episode Take a Right, which I think is the 6th episode, and he's reuniting with his old Cobra Kai pals, and he tells them, John Kreese is back, and their reaction is one of, are you serious?
Do you think, Pat, I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think John had it in mind all along to take the dojo from Johnny, that this was, sort of a long con, or do you think it sort of became a plan out of necessity once Johnny wouldn't accept the old ways and threw him out of the dojo?
I, because of the nature of the character, believe it was the plan from the start when he saw this opportunity. And then he eventually just needed that one foot in the door, and when Johnny was willing to give that to him, he immediately, for lack of a better pun, snaked his way into a lot of things involved in the business, reorganizing the office, hanging his picture. It's all foreshadowing to the point where he finds out the business arrangement and immediately has Johnny pushed out.
Right.
Yep.
And again, the backroom brainwashing of kids like Hawk.
Right. I was going to say, the one thing you can't neglect to mention is him worming his way into the hearts of the kids, so that when we get to the finale, which boy do we need to talk about that. When we get to the finale and Miguel is hurt, and the kids' interpretation of those events is, had we listened to John all along, Miguel would have hurt Robbie. Robbie wouldn't have been able to retaliate, and Miguel wouldn't have his back broken. And so they reject Johnny and they accept Kreese, and you have to wonder, was that not Kreese's plan all along? Though the question then becomes, had Johnny not turned on Kreese, had he just Kreese push Johnny out? If Johnny is willing to go along with the plan, let's teach kids to cheat and be brutal. Jesse, do you still think John pushes Johnny out?
No, he works Johnny until he can try and turn him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he pushes him out.
Okay.
Think the plan along.
I think,
Pat, you think the plan all along was once Johnny restarted Cobra Kai, John's philosophy was this is my racket, and I'm going to find a way to take it all back.
Again, and maybe I'm giving the writing too much credit, though with the callbacks and the continuity, I don't think that's the case. I think it's been excellent. Again, the last time before he's in that dojo approaching Johnny at the end of season 1, he's choking the life out of a 16-year-old kid in a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really think he gives a shit at all about Johnny?
Okay, that's a fair point. Jesse, I cut you off. You want to finish your point?
No, I was going to say that I think he would work Johnny until he could potentially try to change him or turn him to his side, because my guess is that he would realize that, the more soldiers he has in his dojo, the better, especially if all this trust is already placed in Johnny as a sensei. If he can turn him in some way, why not? So
right.
I
think he's willing to keep him along as a patsy for as long as Johnny allows himself to be one.
Yes.
But I think Pat's right as well. Like, I think the ultimate goal was to be the big man in charge. And if John is willing to go along to get along, that's great. But there's always Plan B. So we can come back to this if you guys want, but I want to move on to Daniel this season, who I don't know how I feel about Daniel now, because I feel like last season, he was dealing with the return of Cobra Kai, and he kind of we talked about the swinging back and forth on the pendulum of relatable and accepted and acceptable, and then being kind of villainous. And of course you have some people's philosophies that Daniel's always been the villain, which is a little silly. This season I found Daniel to be a lot less sympathetic. I feel like he called himself in the beginning like Mr. Balance, but almost from the start, and it doesn't really change at all throughout the season. Like, he kind of stays one note where he's so engrossed and so totally focused on putting Johnny out of business that he loses sight of everything else. And there's no change that I can tell throughout the entire season, to the point that I was getting tired of it. I was cheering for the wife at one point, and me, I'm, I tend not to roll that way. But I was like, I saw her point of view. She's like, you guys are running, you're so concerned with your free karate dojo that you're losing sight of the business that makes us money and allows us to pay our mortgage, you flaming asshole. So I'll kick it over to you, Jesse. Johnny's lack of an arc this season. What do you think?
Oh, Daniel. Okay, look.
Sorry, Daniel.
I followed you. I think that's what we're supposed to feel. We're not supposed to feel as much sympathy as we are. Obviously, this is Johnny's story anyway. So seeing Daniel kind of fall from grace and really focus on just not just putting Johnny out of business, more along the lines of like, he's no good, I'm better than he is, and why can't everybody fucking see it? Why can't everybody see that I'm the good guy here? And he goes to just crazy lengths to try and one up him. Specifically, I mean, they're early in the season when they did the internet ad, and he says, "Hey, free karate for everybody, and we don't want you to be a snake in the grass," which was clearly a shot at Cobra Kai. And like, I'm not surprised. And even his daughter's trying to take up for him. Well, he didn't I can't remember what she says, but here, you could see he's trying to get that dig at Johnny here. And these are rivals. These are guys who, okay, we've seen them in the previous season kind of put things aside at one point, sit down and try to talk civilly.
I could eat.
What's that?
I could eat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So but that rivalry is what, just sends Daniel along a path that he shouldn't be going down. And
it is amazing. He like sacrifices, like when you see him in the very first episode of season 1, he is God's gift to husbanding and parenting. And he throws it all away because he has to be he has to beat Johnny.
Well, let me ask you guys. In your lifetime, do you have, and I hate to use this word, but a frenemy or like a rival of some kind through your life?
Absolutely, I do. I know. I could tell you one right now, and he got a Spider-Man 129 out of a long box at an auction. And then when I went and saw him outside, he said, I would have continued to pay for that. So pretty much telling me he wasn't going to let me fucking get it. Yes, right. First appearance of Punisher. I remember that guy. I see him every once in a while. He is my nemesis, sir. So yes, okay. I do have one.
I don't know about a nemesis. I do know that I have a friend that I'm extremely competitive with. And then I have another friend who Pat met. There's no competition on the other hand, but I would say there's definitely there has been some hard feelings between us.
Okay, so when you guys meet or whatever, is there always that point where you shake hands, one guy's trying to squeeze the other guy's hand a little bit harder?
Sure.
One guy is trying to stand up on his tippy toes. One guy's going to talk about how much weight the other guy gained. One guy's going to talk about how much hair the other guy lost. Right?
Yeah.
Sure, I'm with you.
And it's never going to go away. Now, these are not necessarily guys who you have had attempted to murder or maim you.
Good point.
Or taken your woman.
Oh, man.
So take those feelings and magnify them to that level where, yes, I would agree in many respects that, Amazing Spider-Man 129 is in many ways more valuable than a woman.
You're listening to the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. Women stink. Go on, Pat.
Well, you kind of summarized, but no. but imagine those things. It's, it's magnified. And I'm not even just talking about, there was more than just a tournament fight. You're talking about pushing him down a cliff on his bike. You're talking about a gang assault in, the back of his apartment complex. You're talking about, again, taking his woman and taking his title. All these things are pretty darn heated. And now it's gone into adulthood. It involves their children.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not going to be that easy at any point.
I hear what you're saying, but I think a better person gets over this at some point.
That's what makes him human, is that, yeah, he could be the better person, but where's the struggle if that's the case? I don't want to see him making every great choice here. Okay. I want to see Daniel make a few mistakes along the way.
And they try.
But that's the thing, is like
try.
Daniel has it all. Daniel has it all. And here's the thing, what makes him to me less sympathetic, and like we can argue this if you want, but what makes him less sympathetic, especially in season 2 to me, is that you from the jump had it all. Not to mention, you're the one that came away from that early rivalry like in a better place than Johnny was, and yet it's not enough, and you feel the need to fuck this guy on an ongoing basis to the point where you're putting distance between you and your wife. You're letting your business start to go down the toilet. I don't think he's having a real positive influence on his daughter's life, and the only life that you've managed to in any way have a positive effect on is the man's son, which is just making the rivalry worse. I'll go ahead.
Right,
Pat.
it's like a better version of Hook.
The Robin Williams.
I know what he's talking about, and I'm like, all right, go on.
Yeah, it's a better version of Hook, where Hook, takes Robin Williams' son and, dresses him up as a little pirate captain and whatever and brainwashes the kid.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that now. It's been a while since
Or,
I've seen it.
like the Sandman and Raven.
Yes, that's... See,
there we go.
There, everyone take a drink.
I'm trying to think of brainwashing children and using them against their fathers. It doesn't happen as frequently as you would think, or this show makes it out to.
I'll tell you what, though, the Raven Sandman one for the non-wrestling fans out there, that's a great example. That's probably the best example. Because, you had the Sandman, who is this really tough guy. He's hitting people with sticks and smashing beer cans on his head. You can't hurt him because he's dead inside. And the one way Raven could get to him, the one way he could pierce his skin and make him bleed was to turn his son against him. He brought a beer drinking, cane swinging, tough guy to his knees, and all the kid had to do was pose like Raven. It's perfect.
Daddy, you're drunk. Now I worship Raven.
Yes.
But no, I mean, that's where it takes that turn. You amplify all that physical animosity from just the two of them for years, and I get it. And there's even points where they're able to get past it, like when after the Miyagi-Do dojo is assaulted basically and vandalized, and then Daniel kicks in the door at Cobra Kai and is basically ready to throw down in front of the kids. Johnny's response, and you could see Kreese's reaction, which is good. His response was, "I'm going to be the bigger man, and I'm not going to swing at you." But, again, now we get to the point later on where you start really harping into the involvement of their children. It's really easy to armchair quarterback and say, can't you just get past this? And like Jesse said, somebody who I've had all this animosity and tension with, I had, two good instances with them in the past, 30 years. This dude's telling me I can't see my daughter right now. I can't come in there. Boom. Door kicked. Ass kicked.
Are you, Pat, would you disagree with my contention that Danny is kind of shittier this season than he was last season? He's less sympathetic?
I think he's more in the shade of gray this year than, wearing a white hat. But I think one of the really, the highest things we can say in praise of this series is really the duality of presenting both sides and justifying the actions of both sides has been really strong.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you could sum up both seasons, the entire series in one word, it's duality. And you're right. While I think they leaned way hard on Daniel this season, and until someone presents me a better argument, I'm going to stick to it. But you're not wrong in that there's still a duality in Daniel that is present. He means to do good. He keeps doing harm to himself, to everyone around him, but the intention is there. Where Johnny is kind of the opposite. He is not harming that many people, and he is really trying to do good. Unfortunately, things are just getting away from him. So, if there's nothing else, go ahead.
But not to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Again, that's also been part of Daniel's character through the movies, and they even referenced how in Karate Kid Part 3, he became Cobra Kai when he was training with Terry Silver, because that was an instance where Miyagi would not train him because he didn't want him to fight in a tournament for the sake of fighting in a tournament. He had him fight to get respect and stop being bullied and believe in himself. this was Daniel fighting for points and for glory, not for honor. So Daniel went around that and did this on his own, and it wound up being a huge mistake, not even because he was being used as a ploy and a revenge scheme, but because it turned his personality very dark very quickly, and he talks about how he became this aggressive bully, and I think that's one of the better parts to help understand why he's so anti-Cobra Kai. It's not just the first movie. The third movie, the parts are all still there, and he actually was under the guidance of that mantra, that teaching, and look what it did to him. He broke that kid's nose in the dance club. He was super aggressive outside. He was lying to Mr. Miyagi and really transforming into somebody he didn't want to be until ultimately he has this breakdown and just cries and confesses to Mr. Miyagi. And there's been points in the series where he's saying, where are you now? Because he does not have a guiding factor behind him the way he did to hold him up.
He is out
That's
to
why
sea without
he's
an
sliding
anchor.
back again.
But you bring that up, and it's great because it does go to the fact that on top of all of that, going back to the darkness within Daniel, I think when we meet Daniel in the first season, he has spent years sort of compartmentalizing that darkness and kind of paving over it, and and building this life with his pretty wife and this really successful car dealership, and he's got one kid who's pretty great and another kid who's kind of halfway shitty. Though he has one or two lines that crack me up in the season. And then all this stuff with Johnny starts to happen, and over the course of 2 seasons, that darkness erupts within Daniel, and it corrodes everything around him. Jesse, I'll give you the last word here on Daniel, and we're going to move on to my favorite character this season.
I want to just throw out a quote here that I just found off of the Glory of Love episode, okay? So here Johnny walks into the dojo, and he says, the creed on the wall, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. He says, follow it to the letter. It'll make you strong. It'll make you formidable. It'll also make you an asshole, because that's just black paint on a white wall. But life's not black and white. More often than not, it's gray. So that really, again, I just kind of want to throw that out there to support exactly what Pat's saying, is that it's not, Daniel is not the white knight that he used to be. He's falling into that gray area, and I think that is the specific point that they're trying to make with this series. And your hero kind of falls usually in that second arc. How many movies, Mark, can you spout off that had a second installment where things weren't so great at the end, especially for our heroes?
Sure.
And
I'll just throw out Daredevil as an example. Where,
okay.
Where I think it's the second season where where it all kind of falls apart for him, where he starts to fall apart. The third season was about rebuilding him. I think it's the second season, and then partially Defenders, where a building got dropped on him, where he really loses it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and so that kind of might also foreshadow what's going to be happening in our third season. So, because usually what happens when your hero gets tore down, they rise even higher. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. Let's talk about the closest thing other than John Kreese that we have to a villain in this series. Not tremendously redeemable, but she's my favorite character in all of Season 2. She's 21, so I can say she's hotsy-totsy. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Peyton List as what's her character's name?
Tori with a Y.
Tori. Yes, Tori with a Y. Oh, again, she's 21, so I can talk about what a piece of ass she is.
Boy, oh boy, did she have the fuck me face on, let me tell you.
Yeah, she did. Woo-wee! As I said before.
Also, one of 2 Peyton Lists, which I didn't know.
Yeah, I don't know who the other Peyton List is, but I'll tell you, before we get into her character on the show, so I didn't recognize her with her hair done the way it is, because when I am familiar with her from the show Jessie, which is a Disney show which aired from 2011 to 2015. She played Emma Ross, which is the eldest daughter of this group of kids who are multicultural, and you never meet their parents, but the whole premise of the show is that they're being watched by this woman who is trying to be an actress whose name is Jessie, who is now the lead in Insatiable, by the way. Another show we review here. Another show we review here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. And then from 2015 to 2018, she was in the spin-off show as the same character called Bunked, which my daughter is like the world's biggest fan of. Like one day I should get her to do a TV party for Bunked. She knows like every episode. She's watched them multiple times. She just thinks they're the bee's knees. So she cried when she found out that Peyton List was a villain in Cobra Kai. I didn't even realize that was her. I'm sitting there watching the show, and I'm wondering, like, she's an awfully pretty girl. I'm wondering what else she's done, and I don't recognize her at all because of the way she's done her hair. And then my wife walks out, and she sees the show, and I think she actually walked out during the season finale. And she's just like, hey, wait a minute, is that Peyton List? And I'm like, yeah, I believe it is. And she's like, you don't remember who she is? I'm like, no, I don't. It's not connecting for me. She's like, that's fucking Emma from Jessie and Bunked. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. And I'm like Googling and everything, and I'm like, oh my god, it is her. And I checked her age 3 times, 21. And then the next thing I know, my wife's telling my daughter, like, hey, Daddy's watching a show where Emma from Bunked and Jessie is a villain. At which point my daughter burst into tears.
Oh.
Well, remember that? Like, you never. There were like certain actors who you just saw in a certain way, and then you find out they're playing a bad guy in a movie, and you're like, what?
Right.
Like when Timothy Dalton was a Nazi in The Rocketeer, I was like, what?
Yeah, I think anytime Harrison Ford played anything that like wasn't like a strict hero, it was like, hey, wait a minute. You know, he. I always thought it was like I remember him playing like the boss in Tootsie. No, not Tootsie. Working Girl. He was the he wasn't the villain though. Sigourney Weaver was, but it doesn't matter.
He was the villain in Regarding Henry.
Yes, he was. All right, so enough side talk there on Miss Peyton List and her various gigs. Apparently, she's been in a lot of stuff.
I will say, for a Disney based actress, I thought she was admirable.
Oh, I thought she does a great job in this.
As bad as her karate was.
Yeah, I'm not here to judge people on their actual karate in the show. You know that it's what it is. What it is. I loved her in this.
Remarkably bad in the fight.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I was like, okay, all right. Well, I'll suspend disbelief for the 70th time.
Her kicks looked worse than CM Punk's, and that's saying something.
Good. Oh boy, shots fired. All right. Let me say this about her. I think. Well, would you guys agree that while she elicits a degree of sympathy hither and thither,
where does she elicit sympathy?
Okay, let's kick that around. So I guess the question I was leading up to was, did you see her as the true villain of the show? As you know, because even Kreese, you know, at some points elicits a degree of sympathy until you realize he's the devil. You would say that that her arc throughout the entire thing is more of a straight line. She's just an asshole the whole time.
Absolutely.
Okay, talk to me about that.
All right. Well, how are we introduced to this character? He comes into the Cobra Kai class, right? And she's the only one who's willing to step up and fight Miguel. Okay, cool, right on. She makes friends with Aisha, and they go to the beach club. Well, the first notable thing she does is swipes a bottle of vodka and wants to go drink.
Hero!
It's like, well, all right, you're definitely the kind of girl I would have hung out with, but that doesn't speak very highly of you.
Right.
You know, so, okay, right away. And then it's not out of line for Sam to make the assumption, did you steal my mom's wallet? Because you just hijacked a bottle of vodka from the bar, and you want to go drink underage and get my friend to do it. What I'm saying is not really out of line. So like, she hooks her by the arm, but Tori's immediate reaction is not one of just spinning off. Nah, I'm going to power you through this table, bitch. And we get a nice little callback to the first movie where when Daniel went to the country club to pick up Allie, and he wound up with spaghetti all over his nice, white shirt and pants where he looked like a pizza delivery boy. I don't know what he was thinking about dressed like that. But, Sam ends up the same way with desserts all over her. And, from that point on, Tori doesn't really do anything nice. She's literally an instigator in every sense. And
I don't know. The early bits with Miguel, I think, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like when her attention was solely focused on Miguel and Miguel wasn't focused on Samantha, she was okay. Things started to make a turn, I think, when Miguel started to refocus back on Samantha, and then everything sort of built to a fever pitch at the party where a drunk Samantha ends up kissing Miguel and she sees it, which of course sends her into a rage, which then leads to the finale.
To be fair, she tried to alpha dog Sam from the get-go and embarrass her by calling her out to, push her superiority to Sam as the new and improved model for Miguel, and that backfired, and then that happened, and as the song in the original Karate Kid says, at the beach, takes two to tango. And well, that's my callback I'm throwing in there. Just
I like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed though. She nearly kills Sam in the finale.
Yeah, and then get to that point where it's no mercy. I'm going to maim you with this spiked bracelet that I alluded to earlier in the season.
Whew.
Okay.
I'm
gonna give you all the time, Jesse, but I feel like if Miguel never strays, never turns his eyes from her, maybe we don't get nearly as much of a rivalry between Sam and her, between Sam and Tori. I'm not saying necessarily Tori was pushed, but I feel like, she had her eyes set strictly on Miguel, and I think if Miguel just forgets about Sam, things don't go the way they went at the party, and they certainly don't go the way they went on the first day of school. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm projecting onto this character. What do you think, Jesse?
Well, okay. I think clearly the point of her was to give Sam somebody to basically go up. Yes, to basically go up against. I mean, we already have Miguel and we have Robbie, so Sam needs somebody. And what better way to throw something in there and create a bunch of tension other than the new girl? She's from the wrong side of the tracks. She definitely has a rough side to her, and I didn't fully accept her as she's the villain here. She's stepped in. She's definitely not as pure as Sam is, but this is Miguel's chance here to maybe find something else because of what's going on between him and Sam. So I pretty much accepted it as that. I didn't realize how really competitive she was, to the point where she was going to fuck up that pretty face with that bracelet. I mean, she was going to mess her up in that last episode.
Well, she was looking for any reason to do stuff to her before that too, like when they go to the skating rink for the 80s party.
Yeah. Shoulder checks, and I mean, and there you have that shit all the time though at high school. Somebody's dating the other person's girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and then there's going to be that just already animosity, and those two may never have even known each other. Very similar to what we have here. So for me, it was kind of believable, and I like I said, I didn't paint her as the villain immediately, but I kind of had a feeling as to where it was going. I just didn't know it was going to go that far, because it went pretty fucking far there at the end.
I can't wait to talk about it. We may need to do this soon. Okay. I liked her as the villain in this. She's definitely an instigator, regardless of whether or not in anyone's mind, including my own, she elicits sympathy or not. She does play a great instigator.
Are you going to say that she is the greatest villain out of here?
No, the ultimate villain was Kreese.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. I'm leaning toward Hawk here, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Fucking stole a Medal of Honor.
Okay, let's talk about Hawk. I was actually going to, but I want to talk about him and Dimitri because there's some stuff with Dimitri.
Talk about Hawk, who I feel bad for.
You feel bad for her. Oh boy! All right.
Okay, there's stuff about Dimitri I need to talk about. So let's talk about both Hawk and Dimitri. So first of all, poor Hawk. Who's
poor Hawk? Yeah.
No. Let's look at Hawk from an objective point of view. So he's got this hair lip, right? And he causes him to get bullied, and so he does exactly what Johnny instructs him to do. Flips the script. He develops this persona. Okay, none unlike Sting, the singer, or Madonna. These are not the names that they were born with. These are personas, right? So he goes ahead and he does that, and he gains confidence, and he learns karate, and he doesn't win the tournament, okay? But he comes close. And then every fight he gets into this season, he gets his ass kicked. Poor guy.
I don't know. I can't feel sorry for him, sir.
Loses his girlfriend because he's half an idiot.
Well, the point I was going to say where I feel sorry for him is not necessarily on the whole. I feel sorry for what he grew up with, like Mark pointed out, the hair lip and constantly being bullied for, made fun of it. I think anybody can feel bad for that. I actually, and I'm not trying to brag about myself, there were kids who didn't necessarily have deformities but were definitely different. And if somebody picked on them, I would usually tell them, hey, shut the fuck up, and why don't you leave the kid alone?
Sure.
Because that shit always bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then, you go to the point where he flips the script and he stands up for himself, which I wish most of those kids would have learned how to do. Even if he loses every fight he's in, which most of the time is the case. Although, to be fair, one time when he loses a fight, it's because he had just taken on, 18 jobbers before that, so he's probably a little tired. Stuff happens. But where I feel bad for him, Mark brought up the point, not only did Moon leave him for being a quote-unquote bully, she left him for a really smoking hot black chick.
Yeah, she did.
Good point. I do want to talk about that one moment where she calls him out. She calls Hawk out and says, goes throughout that speech and then at the end calls him a bully. Me and the wife, just erupted into, applause because he is completely acting like a jerk. That's what his character is supposed to be. And I understand why, because number one, he's a kid. He's confused. Obviously, he's in a dojo where right now this dojo is being run by Kreese. And it's hard as a kid to understand what the right move is. What's the next move? And then you have the friendship between him and Dimitri, which just you want to see those guys become friends again. And no matter what, even at that one moment at the party where it just seems like, okay, well, we got some hope here. And then it just, again, gets all thrown to shit, and it's all because of Hawk. It's all because of him. And then, he gets a taste of his own medicine. He don't like it.
Well, don't like it. It was funny. We talked about the darkness within Daniel. That darkness is there within Hawk, obviously. There's a lot of anger and resentment and frustration that's just sort of bubbling beneath the surface. And Kreese taps right into it. Like, oh, so much Texas oil just sinks right in.
Yep.
And,
you can smell it.
And that's the thing. It's like, it reminds me of the line from The Last Jedi. He was just like, the darkness called out and you went right for it. There was no hesitation, when he's chastising Rey. It was the same thing for Hawk here and to a degree Tori, where, Kreese, who is the devil, again, sort of holds out this, this negativity and says, here, this will make you stronger. And there's just no hesitation from Hawk at all. He was like, "Yep, I'll drink right out of it. I don't care."
Yep. Oh, need me to go, defile a dojo, send me on my way. Okay, it steals a Medal of Honor, fucking spray paints Miyagi's car. I mean, that right there was just almost unforgivable, almost. So. But you wanted to talk about Dimitri. I mean, what are your thoughts there on that whole thing?
So Dimitri's probably my favorite
What
character
a
now.
hateable little cunt.
Oh no, I love him. He's my favorite character this season. Favorite character not based entirely on looks. Sorry, they're painting the list. Because honestly, he has like a great arc to him, and he's got some really comedic lines. The best being in the finale, where I think it's Curtis who says, "We got to do something about this," and he was like, "You're right. I'm gonna go get a teacher," and takes off. I laughed hard at that. It was throughout all that fighting and everything else.
He's the one rational. He's the
one rational
person.
human being in that entire group. Everyone's like,
I hope he gets raped in the boys' room.
No, not Dimitri, not my Dimitri. Poor Dimitri.
The most hateable fucking character. You want to talk a villain? That's a villain right there.
No, Pat. No.
Stingray is going to be your most hated character, Pat. Come on. You telling me Stingray is better than Dimitri?
Yes.
Oh, wow. All right.
Okay. So I get why Pat has so much animosity towards the Dimitri character. He's a whiner. He's a complainer. He wants to take shortcuts. He's one of these people who, because he's smart, he thinks he's better than everybody else. He also gets fucking humbled. He's one of the few characters that truly has a defined arc in the show.
I want Iron Sheik humbling him.
Pat's
Break your back.
Pat's being unreasonable. Jesse, be reasonable. Talk to me, baby. Let's talk about Dimitri.
Yeah, Dimitri. Okay, he's almost kind of like that
little cunt.
he's that bit of comedic relief, and also the guy. Like I said, he's the rational dude. He's probably the guy. Like 90% of people who walk into karate who don't know shit about karate are going to be. They're probably going to be those 90-pound weaklings. And I could see this being a genuine reaction from a lot of kids. But again, I can see where Pat's coming from, because like when Kreese he comes out of the dojo, the Cobra Kai dojo, his nose is bleeding. He's like, I had to get stitches. And he's just
aggravated
trying to
assault, Eli.
I can understand where Pat's coming from, because it does go over the top. But
I saw where he was coming from. You're not supposed to punch teenagers in the nose. You just can't.
Well, teenagers should get punched in the nose.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but you still can't. You can't.
Fuck that. Do it.
You can't punch inmates. You can't punch children. That's the rules, I've been told.
No, and then if there's any line that really makes him more hateable than anything. When they corner him in the comic book store, and he's he's talking to Hawk about how you would hit me, and then he goes, "So this is what it's come to, gang assault." I'm like, "Oh, kill this little rat fuck right now,
Okay.
This little fag, kill him."
Pat's got feelings.
Yes, I think as a character, okay. Clearly, he's written in such a way to a degree to elicit that from some people in the audience, Pat being one of them. But like I said, overall, I think he's a very well-written character. I think the guy playing him is hysterical. I think he's got great comedic timing. If he doesn't, if he decides to leave acting and go into stand-up comedy, if he's got the chops for it, I think he'll do very well. He's
the least predictable simpering wimp that I know. I mean, because I did not see him doing that shit at the party where he just got up on stage and started running fucking Hawk into the ground.
Yeah, it was great. I laughed. I mean, like I said, he's got incredible stage presence. I liked see that's the thing, is I have all these complaints about Daniel, but Dimitri's like the one kid who like positively benefited, one or two, who positively benefited from Daniel's teachings of Miyagi-Do. He went there seeking. He was exactly what that dojo was designed for. A kid seeking another way, because he clearly did not want to become what was the product of Cobra Kai, but he still needed to at least learn how to defend himself. And so Daniel's talking about karate is not for offense but for defense. Really, that is emblematic. It is exemplified in Dimitri. He's an important. He's probably the most important character in the entire second season.
Whoo, Pat.
I don't
Hey.
know about that.
Pat, Dimitri, your new Karate Kid. What do you think?
I don't know about that one. I don't know that I would rate him as more important than, say, Johnny, Daniel, Sam, Robbie, Miguel,
The block of ice that didn't broke at the
Reese.
I don't even want to talk
I'd
about
say he's
Miguel.
probably running at number 7.
But yeah, the Hawk Dimitri rivalry. I'm sure we'll see more of that in season 3. But I thought they were like if you wanted to see the pure essence of each dojo's teaching, you have Hawk, who is Cobra Kai 100%, and then you have Dimitri, who is Miyagi-Do 100%, and I really enjoyed both aspects of it. All right, so since we talked about those two, we talked a little bit about Sam and Tori. I don't know how much more about Sam there is to talk about.
I think we covered all her. She doesn't really have much of a big arc other than just the love interest and causing problems.
Well, at least they pull her out of being just Mary Sue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to say Mary Sue. Whoops.
No,
Way to
you're
go.
fine. You're on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. We call out Mary Sue's when we see him. I don't think Ray's a Mary Sue though. Anyway, let's talk about Miguel and Robbie, and then let's get to the finale. And then I think we've covered all that needs to be covered here. So, I found Miguel less compelling this season. Like, he had the Dimitri arc in the first season. Like, he had a really, truly defined, great arc. He also delved in the duality. He was a really complex character, a really fun character to watch develop. And then this season, he's sort of a simpering idiot. And I don't find him nearly as interesting. Then you have Robbie, who also has this really great story. He's a thief and a thug, and, he's looking for a father figure, and he finds one in Daniel and everything, and, you sort of follow him to the end where he's sort of Daniel's protege. And then in this season, again, I don't find him at all interesting. I felt a little sorry for him when his mom took off for Cabo, and that's kind of it.
Can I ask a real quick question? And this kind of involves Daniel and his parenting skills. But Daniel is aware that Robbie and his daughter are dating, correct?
No.
He has no idea?
They kept it strictly platonic for a while, and it doesn't change until maybe about halfway through the season, and then they never got a chance to tell him.
Okay,
They plan on it, but it never comes to light.
Well, okay, all right, because I was sitting there going, how progressive is Daniel to allow that to be going on under his roof? I mean,
well, if you remember,
whatever.
they almost kissed, and Robbie stops it because he doesn't want to get tossed down in his ass.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
and
right.
Jesse, when you say progressive, I believe the word you're looking for is dumb.
Well, yes, that too.
All right, so yes, Robbie and Miguel are your two most important kid characters in this. Not being facetious and but I don't know. I felt their arcs were much flatter this season. What do you think, Pat?
Miguel definitely. I don't think there's any question about that. It's much more. He's after season 1. Even though he lost Sam, I think he's found himself. He found his inner badass, and that's where he's at. He's got a confidence about himself that he didn't have before. He can walk pretty sure of himself. It's just the only thing missing for him, initially at least, is Sam. And that's where he's kind of starting from. Robbie is still kind of on the same arc as he was season 1, but again, you don't have the same ability to develop as you did in that one because he made these grand strides in season 1, and now it's almost coasting, for lack of a better word, off of that from what they did, where the steps in this one are more baby steps, where it goes from, working with the LaRussos and everything to, his initial friendship with Sam, where it's very clear from the get-go he's interested in her, like the first time she says, "Oh, we can go meet my boyfriend," and his reaction is, "Oh, boyfriend, yeah, awesome." Not. And, it's very clearly more than that from his end on the get-go, but he's managed to not stray for the most part until it really gets to that point. But I wouldn't call his arc totally flat, but it's definitely not anywhere near the first season. Whereas Miguel, I think, was really not developed at all here.
Now, I was going to say I think the biggest contribution Miguel has is trying to keep Johnny, on the straight and narrow, and like maybe get him to realize, hey, this guy you just let back into the dojo is not who you think he is. That's really about the only thing I can think of, other than the fact that, we have the whole love, the love angle between all the, Robbie, Sam, Miguel, and Tori. That's really about it. Now, as for Robbie, I mean, it's interesting to see him. It was stated before, this is Johnny's son living under the roof of his rival Daniel. Now, they don't play that up a whole lot. I mean, yeah, that's brought up every once in a while, but it could be brought up a whole lot more, and Johnny could be way more pissed than he actually is throughout this whole series.
Johnny could have also done a really crazy thing, which is gone to the house and say, "I understand you have my son. You have to come home with me. You can't live here."
That's right. And he doesn't do that. And that speaks a lot to the character. Go ahead.
But he also knows that, that'll just backfire horribly if I do that. Because now I'm forcing the kid out of this environment he likes to be with me. That's just not going to jive.
And that's the growth of Johnny, for him to be able to accept that and understand he's going to make the situation worse. So you're seeing the growth of Johnny and the fact that he's not doing that. So Robbie, again, really all you see is just him learning karate and dealing with the fact that his mom's not around and trying to learn from Daniel as much as he can. He's trying to also make this dojo successful. Being a member and going to the fair with Daniel and all that. But man, I can't really come up with much more than that, other than we're setting there all these pieces up for the finale.
Well, this is actually my lead into the finale, and that is, so he spends the summer learning about balance and chi and finding inner peace. And, karate is for defense, not offense. And the first chance he gets, he hulks out and kicks a kid over the rail. Where the fuck did that come from?
Nature versus nurture, Mark.
Oh,
that's a great point,
deep.
Pat. That's a great point. That we talk about the darkness. Now, he clearly had the darkness too, and as much as he was trying to let the light in, the darkness was still there, and it resulted in him, doing a terrible thing by accident, but still, I mean, he didn't mean to kick him over the rail. But I tell you, I watched the finale, and let's break this down. So you have the whole. So Tori has now seen Miguel after all this time and effort that she put into this relationship, and after this building animosity and rivalry with Sam, she sees her ultimate rival kissing her boyfriend, and her boyfriend kissing her ultimate rival, and she loses her fucking shit. And so the first day of school, she says, I'm coming for you, bitch.
This poor school, by the way. This poor school.
And so she does. And, and Pat, you're going to interject something?
Can I just say this is where season 2 lost me?
Yeah, it's funny. I told you my wife walked in the room at about when this was happening, and she took one look at what I was watching and went, "This is the most stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life." And it's so funny because she was like, "This is so unrealistic. There's no way they'd let this happen." Then one of the teachers like, "They don't pay me enough for this," and proceeds to not stop the fight. She goes, "Okay, that I can see happening.
That would happen."
I'm not touching the kid. I'm not getting involved. Call the cops.
Yeah, get the police here.
Yeah. Anyway, So, her and Sam proceed to duel off. And again, this is one of those things where I didn't understand what Robbie and Miguel were doing. Because, instead of separating, grabbing each of their girlfriends and sort of separating them and, trying to let cooler heads prevail, I think Miguel tries, and then Robbie jumps on top of him. What the fuck is this? Or it might have been the other way around.
You ain't getting it back.
Yeah, it might have been the other way around. I don't remember really, but in either case, I'm watching this. And I'm like, okay, the boys clearly have to get in between the girls, and the girls maybe try to keep getting around them, and the boys end up fighting each other. And of course, everyone then it becomes karate mania, and everyone breaks down and fights their rival.
And first of all, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little something. If two girls are about to fight, do not get in the middle of it.
Oh, no.
Just no, do not. It is the absolute worst fight you will ever see in your life.
Yeah,
and I don't mean worse as in it's bad, like a Deontay Wilder fight. I mean, shit's about to get real dangerous real quick.
Oh, yeah. That's going to end in hair pulling and scratching and blood.
I saw a girl bite the tip of another girl's nose off.
Oh, shit.
That's about right.
I think I've talked about that on maybe one other show that we've done here. But the most savage street fight I've ever seen in person was between two girls.
Right.
Who I think it was over a guy. I don't know for sure. But, man, just hair flying everywhere, punches being thrown, rolling around on the ground, and just this mop of hair, all their hair together, because they both had big curly hair that was long. And, you just hear the most frightening scream you've ever heard in your life. Where I think about it, I get the bad chills.
Sure, that's gross.
And the one girl rolls off the top of the other girl. The one girl who is on the bottom, her face is covered in blood.
Sure.
And you're thinking oh my God, what happened under there? And then you see her spit, and something flies out. And it's the tip of the other girl's nose.
Well, that's a surefire way to stop a fight. Ugh. So, yeah.
I've seen deaths happen. I've seen people die. That was scarier.
I'll bet. Here's my problem. As entertaining as the finale was, and that's exactly what I said. My wife says this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. She says that a lot about the things I watch. And she's like, this is totally unrealistic. I turned to her and I said, I wasn't aware this was a documentary.
Good answer, sir.
Fucking entertainment,
I get it, but there's also a line of what we'll accept in this show and where where you go fucking really.
Here's where I gotta speak to the craft of the show, and that is, I feel like they you go all the way back to How I Met Your Mother and the whole, Barney thinking that Johnny's the hero of the Karate Kid and someone deciding to run with that idea. And here we have Cobra Kai Season 1. And I don't know if the producers of the show thought they were ever going to get a second season, but they did. And now you've got, whether or not they planned, they've got a Kevin Feige over there planning several seasons of what could be. I don't know. But I have to imagine at some point, once they got greenlit for Season 2, they sat down at a table and we can't do another tournament. This has got to... But, people want to see these kids fight. There's got to be karate in Cobra Kai. Or what are we doing? So how do we want to end the show? And somebody had to have pitched, how about all the kids get into a full-on brawl in the school? As a way of topping Season 1. Without repeating the same beats. Which, okay, that's why I'm willing to accept how stupid this was. Here's my problem with it. If they sat at the table on day one of writing Season 2 and said, where we're going to end is all of the rivals will fight each other in the school in a huge rumble. Now we got to get there. With the girls, I feel like, okay, Tori's instigating and pushing, and Sam's defending herself, and there's no way out of this. Okay, if they had just left it with those two, and they went all over the place, and at some point, Tori kicked her over the rail, I'm fine, and I'm satisfied with Season 2 the way that it ended. The fact that Miguel and Robbie got involved, and Miguel's the one that goes over the rail, like, I get he's probably your most sympathetic of the children characters. He's certainly the most complex. And so, as an as an audience member, you're set up to react the way that I did, the way that your son did, where like you're sad. Like, Miguel's not a bad kid. He didn't deserve to be possibly paralyzed or dead from all of this. On the other hand, I don't feel like Miguel's journey to that point or Robbie's journey to that point earned that ending. What do you think, Jesse?
Ooh. I mean, I can understand where you're coming from. I really do. I don't know. I was torn at the fact that, okay, this is entertaining, and the other side of me going, there's no way in hell this town allows karate dojos to continue. if this happens at school twice, karate is banned, all right? This is the Footloose of fucking karate. No dancing, no karate. That's what the result.
Meet the new principal, John Lithgow.
That is the end result here of what happens. So, but yeah, let me tell you about my son and what happened. When the battle went down, I mean, we were invested. Caleb's, of course, he's pulling for his favorites, and he's definitely conflicted as to who he wants to win, who he's rooting for, because that's what this show is supposed to do. But when Miguel has his fall and he breaks his back, yes, that's sad, but really what tore him up was Johnny's reaction at the end. Now, we don't have to get completely into that, but I can tell you that after the show, when Johnny was trying to come to grips with what happened with his prize student Miguel and the fact that he cared so much for this boy, that he's almost like the son he doesn't have, then he flashes back to all the fun times that they had throughout season 1 and all the teaching that he done. That took Caleb and just broke his heart in half, because, and it did me too. I mean, I'm sitting there watching him, and he has to come to grips with what he's lost. But back to the fight, because I have one more thing. Well, there's a couple of things I know we definitely got to touch on, but back to the fight. There is one instance in my life that I can tell you that the heat of battle got to me, and I did something very stupid, and I did it twice. And I say the heat of battle like that sounds like some big fucking thing. Trust me, all I was doing was I was sparring with some friends.
I was going to say you're referring to the Battle of Winterfell, right?
Yes, sir. I grabbed my axe. I went forth and cut me down a White Walker. I've never seen an episode of the show. I did take karate for about a year or two. I got up to green belt, and one of the things we did, it was combat karate. So our sensei was basically all self-defense. So when we sparred, we had a few places we went to. He started out in the YMCA. We ended up in a gymnasium somewhere. No mats on the floor. So the sensei says, hey, just take it easy. You guys do your kicks, do your punches. As you're sparring, just make sure. Remember, it's nothing but solid gymnasium floor. So at one point, the guy I'm facing throws a kick. I catch it, and I do a step in and push down. All right. So I just to basically take him off his feet, trip him, and throw him to the ground. One of the moves we were taught. Well, I completely forgot about the fucking gymnasium floor, threw his ass down, and he went flat back onto the floor. And, I was really deathly afraid I hurt him.
Or did you shout out no mercy?
Well, as we got up and I said, man, I'm sorry, and proceed to, spar for about another 10, 15 minutes, I'd do it again. I completely fucking forgot. And what it is that the point I'm trying to make is that it was the heat of the fight. Now, that's the only thing that I can possibly say to justify what Robbie does to Miguel here. Robbie's in the middle of battle. He throws the kick. He hits Miguel square in the chest and sends him flying over a railing down to the floor.
I'm not arguing that in the heat of the moment, when the darkness bubbles up, you do something stupid that you then later regret.
Okay.
What I'm saying is those two characters didn't earn that ending. Okay, I feel like that finish should have been Tori and Samantha's.
Agreed.
Samantha should have been the
100%.
one to go over the rail. Okay.
If a member of Cobra Kai would have put Daniel's daughter in the hospital with a broken back, I will tell you right now that there's no hope for these two getting together.
I would have had Tori use the spike bracelet and take out one, if not both, of Samantha's eyes.
Okay. I probably would not have blinded the girl, but
and then I would have gone full on Zatoichi with her.
But I do think that the fight. I feel like because Miguel was the star of the first season, and his rival was Robbie, they kind of lazily wrote that ending for the two of them, where the two characters that earned it were Tori and Sam. They Tori was the one that instigated the fight and started the whole thing. It should have ended with the two of them.
Yeah, but the point of that is to show you the far-reaching consequences that this has. Yeah, it may be mainly between these two, but it's affecting everybody around them to where things are falling. People are getting hurt because of shit like that, and that's magnified at one of the more poignant moments at the end.
Let's go with my thing, and let's reverse everything to where Johnny walks into Cobra Kai and he sees Miguel learning from Kreese, and Miguel, instead of Hawk, is the one that said, "You taught us to have mercy, and look where and look what happened." Maybe it doesn't work nearly as well because now that I say that out loud, because why would they have cared about Samantha? But I guess that's the frustrating thing for me is if you really want it to get to the very ending that they got to, having Miguel go over the falls does work because it gives the proper motivation for the students to turn on Johnny. As I say it out loud, okay, that makes more sense to me. On the other hand, then you gotta write that season a little bit better for the two of them. I just don't feel like there were enough beats throughout the season between Johnny and Miguel to where it should have gotten that out of hand.
Okay. One question for you, though. Did you see that coming?
No.
Okay. All right. And I think that's a big reason as to why we got what we got as well. Just like you said.
Yeah, but if Martians had landed on the school, I wouldn't have seen that coming either. I wouldn't call that good writing.
All right. But you've got to shock them somehow.
All right. Pat, you want to jump in here? You got anything on the fight? Anything you want to add? Your thoughts on whether or not that ending was earned by those two guys?
It wasn't earned. We can say that, I think, unanimously. Because, again, the lack of development in the two of them this year really doesn't justify them getting the high-profile spot at the end. It's almost like, oh, geez, we forgot about doing anything with these guys. Here, give them this. And people care. And so I didn't like that. It just felt forced. The fight itself, like I said, this is where the show kind of lost me for the season. Which, if it's going to lose me in the last episode, okay, that's fine. At least I enjoyed most of it. It's, we accept dumb stuff all the time. We love schlock, for lack of a better word. We love it. This really took the show in a stupid direction. Where, let's be real. If a girl hijacks the PA system in a high school and she says, "I'm coming for you, bitch."
Oh, greatest high school moment ever, probably.
They're calling the resource officer, and she's not making it anywhere near the other girl. Yeah,
the resource officer is immediately called, who then calls actual cops to come as well.
Right.
The girl who she's going after is quarantined in a classroom that they will not let this girl into.
Yeah, she's going into like the teacher's lounge or something, where there's only one door in or out.
Yeah, parents are immediately called, not called after the paralyzing brawl.
Yeah.
There is no paralyzing brawl. Like, come on, guys. Like, here you could have plotted it so much easier. Where say they have they had the showdown in the cafeteria where Miguel stood up to Kyler in season 1. Could have happened there, and it could have been just the two of them. could have happened after school. You could have done a callback of some kind where maybe there's tryouts happening for teams after school, and Sam was interested in doing something different, so she's going to try out for whatever, and Tori comes and ruins it, and they brawl like Daniel had with Bobby from Cobra Kai. Mm-hmm. There's a million outs you could have taken.
They could have easily just done a callback to 3 O'Clock High. Just first day of school, as Sam's going into homeroom, Tori walks up to her, and Sam says, "Hey, I hope I hope we can get past everything that happened this summer, and let's be friends." And she says, "You're dead at 3 o'clock. See you at the flagpole," and just walk away.
Yeah.
And then show her kind of sweating, so have Tori see her from across the room, build up the tension, have maybe Sam try to find an alternate way home, and there's Tori who crosses her path and says, "Where you going, bitch?" And you're right, and then they have it in the street instead of, in front of English class.
Well, that's the thing. There were a million other ways it could have been done, and they chose the most, silly, over-the-top, dumb, for lack of a better way to describe it, moment, and they didn't even give the moment to Sam and Tori.
Right.
They gave it to Robbie and Miguel.
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like, again, like the writers just felt like they had to top themselves and they didn't know what to do, so they will have the schmaz at the end, and then you're right, and then it's like, well, who's the most sympathetic character among the kids that we can throw off a ledge, Gamora style? Who can we sacrifice for the Soul Stone? We'll sacrifice Miguel. That causes all these disparate things. The very last thing we see is Johnny. Essentially, I'm not really sure what happened there. I mean, obviously he walks away from Cobra Kai.
Erickson.
Huh? Oh,
It's an Erickson.
The phone.
I want to real quick before you get into that. I think the one thing that spoke to me, the one scene that spoke to me this whole season, was the two of them, Johnny and Daniel, on the elevator at the hospital. After all this shit's gone down, they see Miguel laid out, and I don't know if he's on a respirator, but he's fucked up pretty bad. And Sam just had to get stitches from about being cut up mercilessly by this girl. Both of them get in the same elevator, and I don't think there's a word spoken, but the heaviness of the fact that their rivalry did this, and it did this to not just their own progeny, not just their son and their daughter. This did this to a massive amount of kids. All these kids have this huge fight, and it falls squarely on their shoulders. And these two actors did in my opinion, that elevator scene was the scene of the whole, and there wasn't a word spoken. You could just see it on their faces that they had to come to the realization, like, fuck, it's gone this far.
Yeah.
It's gone this far. So that to me was like, I just remember telling my wife, I said, there it is. I mean, that, as silly as that over the top shit was, if it was, let's just say it was reality, they have to take that on top of between themselves. They have to look at each other and say, this is what we brought.
I'm going to come back to that in a second, but I want to, first I want to talk about Johnny at the beach. They do the bit where he throws the phone on the water, and of course Allie accepts his thing and his friendship on Facebook. We'll see whether or not they actually bring her into the third season. It remains to be seen, or what she could possibly offer to the show.
Oh, I hate them to tease that shit.
Well, that was my thing too. Is what does she actually bring to the table?
Yeah. I'm hoping they don't bring her into the third season.
I don't know, man.
There's other characters who they could bring out of this that offer so much more.
Yeah.
If Mark doesn't like Daniel now, wait till him and his wife get out on the outs, and then Allie shows up, and all of a sudden some kind of old flame is rekindled, and then of course Johnny's like, "What the fuck, man?"
I'm gonna spend a lot of the season if the main plot to season 3 is Johnny and Danny reigniting their feud over Allie, I'm going to throw shit at the television.
That's going to be a subplot.
If they're to bring back anybody in this series, bring back Terry Silver.
Boy.
See, I was going to say bring back
It makes
Dutch.
the most sense.
But
No,
so
we don't want to see Chad McQueen ever.
So Johnny throws his keys into the Charger that's all decked out Cobra Kai style, and he proceeds to walk into the wilderness to live deliberately. I don't know where this is going. Like, there are certain shows, like we talked about the Orville a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week, I don't remember. Jesse and I did. And, we talked about how the show kind of ended, and if it doesn't have a third season, it's fine. It ended satisfyingly enough to where, and all of the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, and everything was tied up neatly, so, they can start fresh in the third season. There are other shows where you're just like, I don't know where this is going, but nothing has been tied up at this point. So they left, so I don't know if they knew they were going to get renewed. Like how far, into production they knew, whether it had been announced that they were really going to get a third season. But, they left us with a cliffhanger ending. Where the fuck is Johnny going? He's like homeless now, I guess. I don't know. He's just wandering the streets. He has no dojo. He has no job. He has nothing. And he just walked away from his car. Not to mention all of the other stuff happening with the kids in the hospital and whatnot. So let me ask you, Jesse, where are we going in season 3? Where's Johnny going?
Here's what's going to happen. It's Johnny, Daniel, tag team versus Cobra Kai. I don't know what's going to. I don't know what they're going to call the dojo, but that is my opinion on what we're going to see.
I'm sorry, karate.
We apologize. We apologize to the town and the kids.
Ricky Ticky Tabby Karate. Because how do you stop a cobra?
Oh, very good. Nice. Very nice.
Mark, you familiar with Ricky Ticky Tabby?
I am familiar with that phrase, yes.
It's not a phrase.
It's a movie, isn't it?
Yes.
That's right. It's been a while since I've seen it.
In a family in India has a newborn child and they have a pet mongoose that protects this child from 2 attacking cobras.
Ooh. So it's going to be the mongoose is going to be in the dojo name, you think?
Yeah.
It could be.
You never know. But anyway,
this is all about defense.
That's right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that's really the only logical step. These two, I guess our third arc is going to be these two trying to figure out a way to put their differences behind them. We'll have Allie show up, and then there'll be some, there's not going to be much hope for them to do this. No way. They can't succeed if they're divided. They come together as a united front. What's his name gets up and walks miraculously. Hey, I'm all right. Miguel's just fine. I just sprained my back, that's all. And then we got a happy ending. I don't know. But, I look forward to season 3 because you're right. I don't know where the hell they're going from here. But I was entertained. I had a good time watching season 2. And I'm very glad that they're bringing it back for season 3.
Pat, where are we going? Where's Johnny going? I need to know. I don't even care if Miguel gets his back fixed or not. I need to know where Johnny went.
I would not be surprised if, for the purposes of Johnny's ultimate redemption in season 3, they go back to using Bobby, who is one of his Cobra Kai friends. Bobby is the bald one who had become a pastor. I would not be surprised if he just tracks down Bobby, says, Bobby, I've got nothing left and I need help. And Bobby kind of takes him under his wing and ultimately kind of leads him on a path of remorse and forgiveness, and at the same time encouraging him that, the goal is not to, whatever. The goal is to do good and to be better. And, then he'll come back and, try to hash things out with Daniel or what have you. Especially what'll drive them together is Kreese taking over Cobra Kai and potentially looking to expand with the help of his friend who still legally owns the Cobra Kai name, Terry Silver, from Karate Kid Part 3.
Hell yeah. I'm all for it, man. How bad did you want to see Daniel break the ice at that fair? And it never happened. All these fun little callbacks, bring on some major ones. I'm down.
All right. I think, well, I'll tell you what, Jesse, burning desires, anything left unsaid? I'll give you the last, I'll give you the first last word, and then I'll give Pat the last word.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, really, I've already said a lot of what I wanted to say. I will ask you guys a question. Do you have a favorite Johnny Lawrence moment throughout the season? Like, is there one that sticks out to you? Because there's some funny stuff that happens in here.
I've already said him fucking around, him discovering the internet like Quagmire on Family Guy for the first time. I was dying laughing. I thought that was hysterical.
The Tinder stuff is great.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
My favorite is his mishmash Carmen fantasy to Here I Go Again.
Yes.
Looks more like the Is This Love video, but I'm fine with it because that's still White Snake.
That's great. Well, yeah, there was a lot of fun moments with Johnny Lawrence and his Analog Man rendition there.
Too.
Oh, I love that. So great. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to get your guys' your thoughts on that one. So, all right, Pat, you're up, man.
So,
what was yours, Jesse?
Ooh, I liked him figuring out the internet as well. I didn't want to really just straight up echo that, but man, when he types in hot babes, Iron Eagle, fucking Iron Eagle, can't forget about him like finding Iron Eagle and yeah, but yeah, that's kind of like my favorite part of his character when he just doesn't. Yeah, he never really had a reason to give a shit about technology. And then Miguel shows up and, kind of forces it upon him. And when he gets the fucking MacBook or the fucking the laptop, and the guy's like, did you try turning it on? He's like, yeah, I pushed the button. It's like the wrong button. Yeah. Fucking, come on, man. Good stuff. Go ahead, Pat.
I'll add in during the first episode, they're like, hey, you want to hang out? No, Sensei has us watching this movie called Over the Top.
Perfect.
Good shit. All right.
Damn it, you got me.
All right, folks. We hope you've enjoyed our discussion of Cobra Kai Season 2. Still one of my favorite shows. I often say, the Orville, Legends, Flash. I like all that stuff. Cobra Kai is right in there. It's top 5 for me. Top 5. So I'm anxiously awaiting. Now we got to wait a whole new year.
Year.
Say top 5.
We got to wait a whole year for Season 3 to see where it's going. Hopefully it'll be just like this year, where it was in the first. But
it'll be free.
Yes, with ads.
Which we don't care about.
So yeah, hopefully it will be in the first 6 months of the year. I hope it's earlier. I need it like in January. Get going. Finish this shit. Let's go. You think Season 3 is Jesse? You think Season 3 is going to be it? You think it'll be a trilogy show? Just 3 seasons and we're done.
Yeah, I honestly think that they should feel comfortable ending it as Season 3, and that might be why they're opening it up to be free. But then again, I mean, with the ads and stuff, depending upon how much money they make, I assume they're doing that because I don't know if the business model of YouTube Red is just not doing them well.
Nobody's paying for it, that's why.
I pirated the shit out of this. So
okay, so you have that, but then you have the opposite end where Mark and I paid for it, but as soon as we were done with the show, we canceled it.
It. And that, I mean, that's one show. I have no idea what else is on YouTube Red that even makes me want to think about paying for it.
There's too many. I don't want to get off on a digital media tangent, but there's too many streaming services out there that I am paying for. Now, I'm not paying for YouTube as well. There's as much as I currently still have YouTube Premium at least until the end of the billing period, even though I canceled it. So it's nice to be able to play YouTube videos on my cell phone while I'm driving, and but be able to go off the page and still hear it, which is one of the big selling points, but not enough for me to spend more money on another streaming service that it's just no.
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. So tomorrow on the Metal Hammer of Doom, Jesse and I are back together again. We're going to review the new Battle Beast. I will have found out the results of my biopsy. So that's going to be a really fun show or kind of depressing show. We'll have to see.
It's based on the subject matter alone. I would say it's depressing, but
oh Jesus Christ, Battle Beast is great. Shut up. On Thursday, Alexis Hana. We're going to do a trailer reaction to I think it's It. She said that we were gonna. Yeah, we're doing a trailer reaction to It Part 2, and then we'll be reviewing She-Ra Season 2, or.
Oh God, I'm already depressed.
She-Ra Season 2, 7 episodes. We have nothing on Friday, thank God. Next week, we've got Civil War Part 2. We've got...
Oh, God, stop it.
We've got a Damn You Hollywood review of Detective Pikachu. Myself and Jesse Starcher will be reviewing the new White Snake, Flesh and Blood. And then Sean and I will be doing an on-trial for the Three Musketeers. On the 20th of May, source material, we got Blood Ties, Damn You Hollywood, John Wick 3, Parabellum, Metal Hammer of Doom, Elavidi, the new album. We have a Long Road to Ruin for the first 2 John Wick movies. And then on Friday the 24th, myself and Rob Winfrey will do a TV party for the Netflix movie Extremely Wicked...
Wait,
Shockingly Evil and Vile. Yes, you can be on it.
Was I not in on that?
You can be. I wasn't sure if you were going to make yourself available. If you want in, you want in.
I love Ted Bundy.
I never say no to you, Pat. When have I ever said no to you?
Well, let's not get into that, please.
Just recently scribbled onto it. We made some friends this past Monday on our recording of Civil War 2. Jesse, who are our new friends?
Oh, we have Chris Sheehan from Cosmic Treadmill, and he also does a podcast, he does a blog called Chris is on Infinite Earths. And then we also have Chris Bailey. Also goes by Charlton Hero on Twitter. He's joined us on source material before. So these are the two guys that they brought forward an idea for a podcast. Now, Mark, you were probably paying more attention to the details than I was. So what's the hack?
What they decided to do was encourage me to start covering the big 4 WWE pay-per-views, but also some of the odd indie-rific stuff. So starting May 26th, we'll be reviewing, and we're calling it a TV party, we'll be reviewing All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing. The following day is a source material for World War Hulk, Damn You Hollywood Aladdin, Sworn Enemy on the Metal Hammer of Doom, and then Alexis Hayna joins me for a TV party tonight for Game of Thrones. And then on June 1st, myself and Pat Mullen will be doing some boxing commentary for Anthony Joshua versus Andy Griffin. No, Andy Ruiz Jr.
Andy Ruiz Jr. Because I still have that terrible service known as The Zone at that point, even though I canceled it already.
You can also check out Pat going on yet another Boxing Sucks rant on our commentary for Canelo Alvarez versus Daniel Jacobs, in which he won the fight 250-0. Like he always does. Jokes, ladies and gentlemen, boxing jokes. All right, Pat. Go ahead and plug whatever it is you want to plug, if you got anything to plug.
Oh, it's always dangerous to ask me if I have anything to plug. You can hear myself go on a tirade against boxing and Canelo Alvarez, and particularly Oscar De La Hoya on our latest boxing commentary that I did with Mark and Robert Winfrey. You can hear me coming up speaking about Ted Bundy, who I have an odd fascination with, I'll say, and not in a weird way. It's just when I was a kid, Ted Bundy was executed when my memories started to really form, and after constantly hearing that name on the news over and over again, just kind of one of those things that always stuck with you. And you're like, oh yeah, Ted Bundy, I remember that guy. And then you read up on him and do all this stuff, and you watch the movies, and you're like, oh yeah, okay.
But more importantly, how do you feel about Zac Efron?
Not to spoil the show, but he was, in a good way, shockingly vile, extremely wicked, and disturbed.
Ooh. All right.
Interesting.
Hot stuff. Good. All right, anything else, Pat?
Not that I can think of at the moment. When you guys actually do a good comic series run or anything, I'm always happy to hop on and talk about it.
He would have felt you would have felt at home on the Civil War II discussion. I'll tell you that much right now, because it wasn't exactly the most positive. We did not really stick a whole lot to the story other than my synopsis.
I don't want to go on shows where I'm going to be negative the whole time, though. Like that's the appeal of this show. Like I really want to go on shows where I have a good time and stuff. And it's one thing where if I'm going to point out, some stuff, but still overall have a good time, that shit's just going to make me mad.
I don't want to do that, sir.
Yeah, so I tend to stay out of those things. Jesse, did you happen to get to see Whitesnake at all on their recent tour?
No, but I do know Mark Radulich did. So,
and Pat Mullen did as well.
Nice. You guys enjoyed yourself. I know Mark at least said he did, so I assume you did as well.
Time, yeah. Hey, we added Heroes in Crisis because Gavin. One because of the news that they were like it was Tom King that's getting death threats over Heroes in Crisis. So we decided. So that's on the schedule. If you would like to join in on that one, Pat. I
literally just talked about how I don't want to see shows.
Understood. Yes, sir. Yes.
All
right.
So talk to me when we do what's a good crossover? Talk to me when we do like Inferno or something. How about that?
Fair enough. I know you at some point we're going to do Books of Doom. I know that's one you wanted to do, but it got bumped because of other stuff happening. So we will eventually get to Books of Doom. I did leave it on the schedule. I just had to bump it into the future somewhere. All right, speaking of bumping into the future, Jesse.
Woo! All right, ladies and gentlemen, go give the Radulich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. You can find us on any podcasting platform, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher. You can also find us on Spreaker. That's our home. And right now we're on Spotify. You should be able to find us on there as well. Just type in RADULICH. Should be able to subscribe right then or find a specific podcast, pull it on up, and take a listen. So it's been a fun time here tonight, guys. I can tell you that I had a great time. So I look forward to talking about Season 3 with you guys in the next year sometime, I'm sure. So for that's Pat. Mark, take us out of here.
All right. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope to have offended you in the future.
Summertime tips and fun facts from Paul, Kristen, and Dexter at Total Wine & More.
For grilled wings, bring on the barbecue sauce. Pair with Syrah to make your taste buds hot.
It's a great time of year for strawberries in a salad. Enjoy with a crisp cider for a perfect pairing.
Nothing beats recommending a great wine. And with our extensive selection, I can help find the perfect one for your budget.
Whether you're hosting or just bringing the wine, Total Wine & More has you covered with 8,000 wines, 3,000 spirits, and 2,500 beers at always low prices. Cheers!
Hey Google Pixel fans, for a limited time, get both our Sprint Unlimited plan and the all-new Google Pixel 3a included for under $35 per month per line for 5 lines. All you need is approved credit, an 18-month lease, and a new line of service. Visit your local Sprint store, sprint.com, or call 800-SPRINT1 today. Phone $1107 per month after $556 per month credit. Apply within 2 bills. Remaining balance due if canceled early. Unlimited basic after $630.20. Pay $32 per month per line for 5 lines with autopay. Data deprioritization during congestion excludes taxes, surcharges, and roaming. Speed maximums, use rules, and restrictions apply.